Agora sim, estamos online. Boa tarde a todos, pessoal. Uma grande alegria estar aqui com vocês nessa tarde. Meu nome é Felipe, eu sou o CEO na MConf. Estou falando aqui diretamente de Porto Alegre, do escritório da MConf. E hoje a gente está aqui para fazer o encerramento do 17º BigBlueButton Developer Summit, que é o encontro de desenvolvedores do BigBlueButton. E esse ano surgiu essa ideia que foi genial, né, de fazer a primeira parte do evento em português para que a gente conseguisse envolver a comunidade local, a comunidade brasileira com maior facilidade. Então, o início do evento vai ser em português, mais ou menos lá por 2h30, 2h40, a gente faz essa troca para inglês e continua, e aí foca na comunidade internacional. Vou convidar todo mundo para que se apresente no chat, no YouTube, né, que coloquem o nome, de que organização e de onde vocês estão falando. Vou falar brevemente em inglês aqui, só para colocar para as pessoas que estão chegando, não falantes de português, que a sessão que a sessão em inglês vai começar em aproximadamente 30 a 40 minutos. Okay, everyone, welcome. My name is Felipe Secanho. I'm speaking from Porto Alegre, Brazil. I'm the CEO at MConf. So the first part of this session will be in Portuguese. It will take about 30 to 40 minutes, and then we are going to switch to English to include the global community, all right? Thank you very much for joining. Beleza, gente. Então, a minha fala aqui vai ser bastante breve. Esse aqui é o 17º encontro de desenvolvedores do BBB. É o 7º encontro que a gente recebe aqui em Porto Alegre. O primeiro deles aconteceu em 2012, então, mais de 10 anos atrás. Desde então, a gente já fez encontros em Ottawa, no Canadá, onde o BigBlueButton surgiu. Em Toronto, no ano passado, a gente fez um encontro em Berlim, na Alemanha, para envolver a comunidade alemã também, que é bastante ativa no projeto. E eu queria falar algumas palavras sobre como é que a gente veio parar aqui, né? Então, a MConf é uma empresa brasileira, surgiu de um projeto de pesquisa lá em 2010, e aí, em 2010, a gente conheceu o BigBlueButton porque a gente tinha alguns objetivos, né, nesse projeto de pesquisa, e as pessoas que começavam a desenvolver o BigBlueButton no Canadá também tinham objetivos similares. Então, ao invés de reinventar a roda, a gente decidiu fazer parte, então, dessa comunidade. E nesses 13 anos de atuação em comunidade e com open source, a gente pôde participar da evolução contínua desse serviço, né, que é tão importante, né, o maior sistema de código aberto para a sala de aula virtual, que ajudou tanta gente e tantas organizações aí, durante a pandemia que a gente acabou de passar. Então, nesses 13 anos, a gente apoiou de múltiplas maneiras a comunidade, fazendo parte da comunidade, fazendo parte dos encontros, e tudo isso começou por conta do apoio, né, de uma organização brasileira, né, que apostou nesse projeto de pesquisa lá na universidade, que acabou se tornando a MConf como empresa e que ainda aposta na MConf, no projeto open source, que é a RNP. A RNP é uma OS, né, ligada ao Ministério de Ciência e Tecnologia, e é muito importante falar desse case, que é um grande case de serviço baseado em BigBlueButton aqui no Brasil, e que foi uma organização que apoiou o projeto lá desde o início, e certamente a gente não estaria aqui se não fosse pela participação da RNP lá no início. E eu queria convidar, então, o Wesley Patrick, que é analista de operações da RNP, para ele falar um pouco para a gente sobre a RNP e sobre esse case que é tão importante para a comunidade acadêmica brasileira, e depois eu sigo para introduzir o que vai ser essa tarde de apresentações. Então, Patrick.
Boa tarde, Felipe. Boa tarde a todos. Muito obrigado pelo convite e muito obrigado a todos que estão participando aí e nos assistindo. Né? Como o Felipe já falou, meu nome é Wesley Patrick. Hoje eu estou responsável pelo serviço de conferência web dentro da RNP, né? Então eu sou meio que o cara que é responsável por essa ferramenta open source, como o Felipe também já citou, que é uma super iniciativa, né? Falar um pouco sobre a RNP. RNP nada mais é que é uma NREM, né? Uma NREM é uma rede de pesquisa que todo país tem, e a nossa do Brasil é a RNP, a Rede Nacional de Ensino e Pesquisa, uma organização, como o Felipe também já citou, né, social, que fomenta, desenvolve e promove o avanço da educação, ciência e tecnologia do país, né? E para alavancar isso, né, a RNP viu e enxergou no produto, né, no serviço, no BigBlueButton, um motor para alavancar essa parceria que existe até hoje, que ela é super importante para que a gente não só desenvolva o serviço, mas também desenvolva toda essa pesquisa, essa vontade que vocês têm de pesquisar e usar o BigBlueButton, né? A RNP ela sempre foi entusiasta, incentivadora, apoiadora e sempre financiou iniciativas open source. Né? E nesse caso, aplicando-se ao BigBlueButton, a gente desenvolveu a nossa aplicação, o nosso serviço que a gente chama o homônimo, né, de conferência web, né, que é o conferência web ou o RNP, que é o da RNP, né, que é o serviço praticado pela RNP. Né, o conferência web hoje ele tem um grande valor na comunidade acadêmica brasileira, né, ele é visto com bons olhos na comunidade, em toda a comunidade científica e na esfera governamental, né, ela tem um grande suporte por parte da RNP, porque mantém essa iniciativa junto à comunidade, junto com a parceria MConf, né? Para vocês terem ideia, durante a pandemia a gente teve aí mais de 18 milhões de acessos, mais de 1 milhão e 200 mil sessões que aconteceram só em 2021, né? E aí tem nos 2022 e ao longo de 2023 esse número só tende a aumentar, né? Então a gente enxerga, a RNP enxerga com grande valor, né, essa iniciativa junto à comunidade open source, junto com essa iniciativa de fomentar a pesquisa do BigBlueButton, né? E, logicamente, aumentando essa pesquisa, fomentando o open source, a comunidade aumentando e colaborando não só para o uso, mas para a melhoria contínua do produto, a gente vai, com certeza, melhorar o nosso produto, que é o Conferência Web. E, para finalizar, né, a RNP agradece, eu, em nome da RNP, né, agradeço aí pela fala, Felipe, e agradeço também a toda a comunidade que participa ativa diretamente no desenvolvimento do BBB. Consequentemente, se não fosse esse desenvolvimento, se não fosse isso, a gente não teria possivelmente esse produto tão bom e com tanta qualidade que a gente pode disponibilizar para a comunidade acadêmica brasileira, consequentemente, para outras NREMs que utilizam o serviço espalhados pelo mundo. Muito obrigado.
Muito legal, Patrick. Então, no teu nome, quer dizer, como CEO da MConf, né, aproveitar para te agradecer, né, e agradecer a RNP pela parceria de tantos anos e também agradecer a todas as organizações que fazem parte da comunidade, que desenvolvem ou que financiam o desenvolvimento em cima do BigBlueButton, porque certamente os resultados que a gente vai enxergar hoje na apresentação dos protótipos tem muito a ver, tem muito a mão de vocês aqui nesses resultados. O BigBlueButton é um projeto de código aberto, né? Então, apesar de empresas fazerem parte, ou as empresas fazem parte do ecossistema, a gente sempre fala que nesses encontros a gente está com o nosso chapéu de open source na cabeça, né? Porque a gente pensa muito em como trazer otimizações para o produto e também dar aos professores mais ferramentas para que eles possam engajar os alunos. E a ideia do Summit, para finalizar, né, é juntar os desenvolvedores por uma semana para discussões de arquitetura, discussões de futuro, criação de protótipos, e muitos dos protótipos que são criados durante o Summit, eles acabam virando funcionalidades no BigBlueButton, e dessa forma todo mundo que utiliza o BigBlueButton é beneficiado com esse trabalho. Então hoje a gente vai ver esses resultados, os protótipos. Então vão ter várias pessoas que vão passar por aqui. A primeira parte em português vai ter 6 apresentações, são Lightning Talks, de 5 minutos. O time vai vir para cá, vai fazer a sua apresentação, vai mostrar, a gente vai cronometrar. Se passar do tempo, a gente corta o microfone. E a ideia é que a gente consiga mostrar um pouquinho do que foi essa semana intensa de trabalho aqui em Porto Alegre, que envolveu aí mais de 20 pessoas atuando ativamente. Então, queria chamar o primeiro grupo. Lucas, é vocês, né?
E aí? Estão me ouvindo bem, pessoal?
Sim, tu tá com a palavra. Legal. Vai em frente.
Tá, estou diretamente aqui dos escritórios da MConf, um pouco mais à direita de onde o Felipe está. Nós estamos todos no mesmo prédio. Eu ia pedir para a gente... Tá, já está com o cronômetro, beleza. Então, boa tarde, pessoal. Eu sou o Lucas, hoje eu lidero a equipe do MConf Live, que é a versão da MConf do BigBlueButton. E o projeto que eu vou apresentar, ele é relativamente simples, porque a gente pegou várias funcionalidades que a gente já tem no MConf Live há algum tempo, que elas foram desenvolvidas pensando especificamente em coisas que clientes nossos, que a RNP desejavam, e a gente pegou essas features e a gente portou elas para o BigBlueButton 2.7, que é uma coisa que vai agregar muito novas funcionalidades para o pessoal do BigBlueButton, e para a gente também ajuda, porque a gente gosta de estar sempre bem atualizado a base de código dos dois, né? Mas naturalmente ela vai divergindo quando a gente vai experimentando com coisas novas e tal. Então eu vou mostrar para vocês algumas das funcionalidades. A primeira é a que deve estar aparecendo na transmissão, que é o timer. Eu acho que eu estou apontando certo aqui. Então vocês podem ver. A gente tem um temporizador que a gente pode contar tanto para baixo, como a gente pode fazer modo cronômetro também, contando, né, subindo o tempo. E a gente daí a gente pode usar para reuniões e aulas, para demarcar o tempo de atividades e coisas assim. E ele sincroniza isso entre todos os participantes. Então a gente vai mandar isso para a versão 2.7. Outra coisa que a gente fez, e eu vou demonstrar para vocês aqui numa segunda sala que eu tenho, que eu vou compartilhar uma aba para mostrar, é a compartilhamento de câmera, que a gente chama. Então, a gente pode... O apresentador, a apresentação de câmera. O apresentador, ele pode clicar nesse apresentar câmera e ele vai estar transmitindo a sua câmera aqui para o centro da tela. Aparentemente, vocês vão achar que é a mesma coisa que está acontecendo, por exemplo, na outra sala, mas ela vai aparecer no lugar da apresentação, tá? E a ideia, então, é que a gente possa usar câmeras que são HD e que estejam filmando um quadro, por exemplo, que a gente vai ter o professor dando uma aula, ou filmando alguma coisa de onde a apresentação, na realidade, vai estar, e ela vai aparecer no lugar da apresentação e como se fosse, na real, compartilhamento de tela. Então, isso já integra na gravação, já aparece ali. Então, é uma coisa bem simples, mas que vai permitir tipos diferentes de aulas acontecerem. A gente também tem um sistema que se chama o sistema de reações, que é esse sisteminha onde a gente é uma extensão do que já tem no BigBlueButton, em que a gente podia dizer que a gente está longe, que a gente está com a mão levantada, que a gente está confuso, que a gente está feliz, em que a gente pode levantar nossa mão só clicando aqui, que nem já dava para fazer antes. Pode dizer que está ausente ou presente, inclusive o bate-papo avisa para todo mundo se a gente está temporariamente ausente ou não, mas ele também tem esse sistema das reações que tem vários emojis novos, então a gente pode customizar isso aqui, e daí quando a gente clica no status, ele aparece na nossa lista, na lista de usuário ali, para que todo mundo possa ver o status que a gente compartilhou. E a última delas é o que a gente tem chamado de compartilhar componente genérico, que a gente basicamente pode configurar alguns serviços para serem compartilhados na área de apresentação. Então, por exemplo, que geralmente a gente dá é o Google Docs, e daí eu posso botar, por exemplo, uma apresentação, um doc aqui do Google Docs, e ele está dentro da página, ele não é uma filmagem dele, não é uma imagem, ele é realmente o site inteiro está aqui dentro, e ele fica sincronizado com os outros usuários, e daí basicamente todo mundo tem acesso ao mesmo documento. Então, para alguns serviços a gente pode fazer isso, tudo isso a gente vai estar portando para dentro do BBB 2.7, que vai ser a versão mais nova, né, que vai ser lançada no futuro. E são coisas, enfim, que a gente desenvolveu, a gente está contribuindo de volta para a comunidade e vão agregar, espero, novas features aí que vão ser bem úteis para todo mundo. Mas é isso. Tem um tempinho aí que a gente pode continuar ou responder uma pergunta.
Beleza, deixa um recado aí para a turma que está acompanhando a transmissão, que se vocês tiverem perguntas, vocês podem ir mandando no bate-papo do YouTube, que aí a gente vai repassando para os apresentadores. Obrigado, Lucas. Time IMDT. Quem vai apresentar? Sou o timer. BigBlueButton Tablet. Beleza. O pessoal está se organizando para iniciar. Então, eu vou desligar minha câmera e vou ligar aqui na sala de reuniões.
Isso, não. Estamos ao vivo. Olá, boa tarde a todos. Eu sou o Thiago da IMDT. Nós atuamos mais nos bastidores, vamos dizer assim. A gente atua com o desenvolvimento das funcionalidades mais do core do BigBlueButton. Então, hoje a gente está aqui para demonstrar duas coisas. A primeira delas é a aplicação BigBlueButton Tablet. E vou compartilhar aqui uma apresentação. Consegue mostrar a apresentação aí? A apresentação? A gente está só aguardando a apresentação subir aqui. A gente já vai começar. Compartilhamento. A apresentação está lá. Bom, então a gente tem por aqui. Basicamente, a razão pela qual nós criamos esse aplicativo do BigBlueButton Tablet é para permitir que possa ser feito o compartilhamento de tela a partir de iPads e também iPhones. O nome BigBlueButton Tablet se deu em função de que inicialmente ele se chamava BigBlueButton Mobile, mas a gente tem um projeto futuro de criar um aplicativo que seja mais enxuto, vamos dizer assim. Esse aplicativo ele roda o BigBlueButton dentro de um WebView, que é como se fosse um frame web dentro da aplicação. Então ele requer um pouco mais de bateria, de processamento e tudo mais. A gente chamou de BigBlueButton Tablet, porque ele, embora ele funcione também em celulares, ele é destinado para esses dispositivos com um pouco mais capacidade de processamento. Então, o que eu vou fazer aqui é, dentro do meu computador, entrar em uma sala, que o nome é BBB Summit. E o Diego aqui com o iPad. vai compartilhar a tela dele para entrar também na reunião.
Vai ser nada de destaque. Apresentador, peguei. Agora compartilhar.
Então, agora, nessa sessão do BigBlueButton que está rodando no meu computador, que eu estou compartilhando a tela com vocês, a gente consegue ver a tela do tablet compartilhada. Então, isso permite, isso abre possibilidades para que seja feito treinamentos em cima de aplicativos mobile, coisas assim. E também a gente está pensando em algumas integrações futuras, por exemplo, fazer uma integração desse aplicativo com o Apple Watch. Então, poderia entrar em uma sala, conectando pelo aplicativo, e o aplicativo enviaria os dados para o relógio. Então, ele mostraria total de usuários ativos, permissão de microfone, essas coisas assim. Isso aqui é uma demonstração rápida, para ter uma ideia de como que funciona, né? Dúvidas, estamos aí à disposição para depois ilustrar na nossa apresentação em inglês, que vai ser um pouco maior. É isso aí.
Muito bom, pessoal. Próxima demo é GraphQL.
Beleza.
Então já siga.
Tá. Agora eu vou pegar a apresentação. Bom, nossa próxima apresentação, eu estou fazendo elas aqui todas só porque essas aqui são mais rápidas, né? E a gente tem o interesse de depois detalhar cada tópico, aí cada uma das pessoas que participou, são mais de 7 pessoas trabalhando nisso, mas a gente vai detalhar depois com mais calma. Então, basicamente, o BigBlueButton hoje, ele utiliza o Meteor na parte de fornecimento de dados para o browser. O Meteor roda em Node e ele é limitado a 1 core. Então, não adianta ter uma máquina lá com 32 cores, ele não vai escalar, ele vai usar 100% de um CPU e vai ficar naquilo. Então, uma forma de contornar isso no passado, nós criamos dois conceitos de um Meteor front-end e um Meteor back-end. O back-end escreve no Mongo e o front-end lê no Mongo e fornece informação para os browsers. Isso funciona, mas tem muito trabalho duplicado. Então, ele está lendo todas as mensagens do Redis, armazenando, então fica uma coisa muito pesada para se escalar o BigBlueButton. Ele tem certas limitações, mesmo fazendo escalando, ele ainda consome muitos recursos, porque é uma estrutura que, vamos dizer assim, foi feita uma adaptação técnica para poder dar uma sobrevida ao projeto na demanda de salas maiores, mas não é a solução ideal. Aqui, com o GraphQL, nós vamos resolver esse problema de uma forma mais profunda, mais correta, porque os dados vão ser enviados para um banco de dados e nós estamos utilizando o Hasura, que é um servidor GraphQL, que obtém as informações do banco de dados e manda para o browser de forma otimizada. Então, esse é um resumo de alto nível, vamos dizer assim. E vamos passar um pouquinho adiante aqui. Então, o Hasura tem uma baixa curva de aprendizagem, tem uma boa documentação, escalabilidade, e tem uma funcionalidade que é necessária para o uso do BigBlueButton, que é o filtro server-side. Ou seja, o browser conecta no BigBlueButton e o BigBlueButton decide o que aquela conexão pode ver. Então, o browser vai dizer, qual é a meeting? Ele vai filtrar a meeting dentro do escopo de acesso desse usuário. Quais são os usuários? Mesma coisa. Então, ele permite tudo isso. Então, a nossa arquitetura inicial era ter o BigBlueButton Apps escrevendo no banco de dados PostgreSQL, e o banco de dados PostgreSQL fornecendo informação para o Hasura, e o Hasura fornecendo informação para o browser. A questão é que a forma que o Hasura trabalha, quando o browser conecta no Hasura, ele pergunta para o BigBlueButton quem é esse usuário. E aí ele recebe algumas variáveis de ambiente que ficam associadas a ele. Essas variáveis de ambiente não podem ser atualizadas durante a conexão. Então não tinha nenhuma forma de contornar isso. Para resolver isso, nós criamos um projeto, que já está na Develop, isso vai ser para 2.8, provavelmente, que é esse BigBlueButton Middleware. E esse middleware atua entre o browser e o rasura. Então, o BBB-Apps, agora, quando, por exemplo, um usuário é promovido ou demovido, ou seja, passado para moderador ou participante, o BBB-Apps consegue avisar esse middleware de que houve uma alteração e o middleware corta esse lado aqui da conexão, só do rasura. Ele mantém a conexão com o browser ativa e reconecta o rasura. Isso garante que o dado vai estar consistente com o que está acontecendo na reunião e permite todas as vantagens que foram colocadas ali. Como a gente tem pouco tempo, eu vou dar uma resumida, mas eu convido a todos a assistir depois a apresentação detalhada, onde a gente vai explorar um pouco mais esses dados que ainda assim em inglês, no caso, né? Então, aqui é o esquema de banco de dados, de algumas tabelas envolvidas. Então, hoje, quando acontece um evento no APA, ele alimenta essa base de dados, colocando esses eventos à disposição do GraphQL. E o Rasura faz acesso desses dados, filtrando o que cada usuário pode ver de acordo com a sua autenticação. E aí tem alguns componentes que foram migrados ao longo dessa semana. Um deles é o Who's Typing, que é esse indicador aqui. Foi migrado já para usar o GraphQL. Isso aqui eu vou entrar em detalhes, nós vamos entrar em detalhes depois na apresentação em inglês. O outro é a User List. A lista de chats abertos é outro componente que foi migrado. A lista de mensagens também foi migrada para utilizar o GraphQL. E a gente vai ter um comparativo, depois na apresentação em inglês, da performance entre a abordagem atual, usando o Meteor, e a abordagem utilizando o GraphQL. Convido a todos a conferir. É isso aí.
Muito bom, Thiago. E isso vai permitir que a gente tenha uma experiência mais fluida no cliente e uma maior escalabilidade, ou seja, mais pessoas conectadas numa sala do BBB, né?
Exatamente.
Isso aí. Muito bom. Beleza, convido o Bruno, então, para o Bruno e a Júlia e o Félix para falar para a gente sobre o conceito de sala híbrida que foi desenvolvido.
Boa tarde, pessoal, tudo bem? Deixa eu compartilhar a minha tela. Então, o conceito e a ideia das aulas híbridas surgiu no nosso último summit, no final do ano passado, lá na Alemanha. Então, a gente começou a imaginar como seria um novo cenário de educação, pensando em que a volta ao presencial estava tomando força, mas, ao mesmo tempo, a pandemia, né, todo o contexto, influenciou muita gente a permanecer no modelo digital. Então, aqui a gente vai passar um overview conceitual sobre o nosso projeto, e ele tem como objetivo fornecer uma experiência verdadeiramente híbrida na educação, né? O que a gente quer dizer com isso? Que tanto os alunos presenciais dentro da sala de aula, quanto os alunos remotos acessando pela plataforma de algum dispositivo, tenham experiências equivalentes, né? Além disso, essa abordagem tem o intuito de coletar dados não só de forma digital, mas também da forma presencial, para que isso possa contribuir na gestão da pedagogia do professor e também gerar relatório de desempenho para as instituições de ensino, né? Isso porque a gente entende que a experiência digital mista é um modelo onde a tecnologia e a pedagogia andam juntos, sendo uma coisa só, né? Com o intuito de mensurar o desempenho do aluno, seja ele independente de onde ele acessa, e também com suprir algumas demandas sociais, como a gente comentou antes, dos alunos que preferem estudar de casa e alunos que preferem estudar em loco, né? Então, aqui um resumo do que eu quero dizer, que o aprendizado ele acontece em todos os lugares, seja na sala de aula, em casa, no livro, no computador, no YouTube, enfim, em diferentes plataformas. E o modelo digital, ele permite que a gente colete essas experiências relevantes e armazene essas informações de forma quantificável, rastreável e compartilhável, né? Então, tu pode estar num ambiente presencial e ainda assim gerar dados para armazenar dentro da tua plataforma. Então, em cima disso, a gente desenvolveu um cenário. Não sei porque não está aparecendo a tela. Agora foi. Um cenário em que esse produto estaria atuando, né? Então, a gente imagina que no modelo presencial a gente tenha alunos acessando remotamente a mesma aula. Então, para isso, a gente imagina que o aluno possa utilizar o seu dispositivo móvel como um auxiliar na educação e não como uma distração, né? Hoje, a gente entende que o celular é uma ferramenta ser presente no dia a dia das pessoas. Então, nesse contexto, a pessoa chegaria, escanearia o QR Code da sala, já registraria sua presença, e quando ela estivesse na aula, o professor poderia interagir tanto com os alunos remotos quanto os presenciais a partir de um aplicativo, com as funcionalidades que a gente já tem hoje no ambiente ao vivo, né? Então, o professor pode fazer enquetes, e os alunos respondem pelo celular, e esse dado é armazenado num banco de dados. Aqui a gente vai ter uma pequena demonstração do protótipo. Então, aqui o aluno faz o login com o seu usuário, entra no link da sala, ele pode compartilhar o QR Code com o colega do lado, o professor pode gerar enquetes, pedir para enviar questões, e os alunos que estão fora da sala de aula, mas no contexto remoto, podem acompanhar o que está acontecendo em sala de aula de forma síncrona. O aluno pode ter uma visão mais próxima da apresentação do que está passando no quadro, caso esteja sentado muito longe do quadro negro. Então, o aluno também pode reagir à aula e isso ter um termômetro de como está sendo a experiência daquele professor. Ele pode levantar a mão, ele pode interagir pelo chat. Então, o aluno que está remoto se sente mais próximo do aluno que está na sala de aula presencial. O professor pode fazer enquetes e com isso, ter as respostas armazenadas, e o professor pode ver o desempenho do aluno de uma forma mais autônoma, né? Sem que ele precise fazer um registro num caderninho. Enfim, quais são os ganhos dessa funcionalidade, dessa ideia? É que a gente consegue coletar dados dos alunos remotos e presenciais da mesma maneira, gera um registro automático de presença, né? Sempre o professor precisar fazer a chamada e marcar no caderninho. E, além disso, ele pode gerar um relatório de engajamento, frequência e performance dos alunos para facilitar o desempenho pedagógico da instituição.
Muito legal, Bruno. Obrigado, Caio, pela apresentação. Agora eu vou chamar o Paulo. Venha, Paulo. A apresentação está contigo.
Beleza, eu sou o Paulo, eu vou estar apresentando sobre uma tarefa que eu desenvolvi no Summit, acerca do modo ouvinte que a gente tem no BigBlueButton, no Elos hoje. O modo ouvinte, ele não é uma coisa que a gente fez por um motivo muito específico, uma ideia genial, ele é uma mitigação técnica para o problema que a gente tem hoje, que é basicamente consumo de recursos no servidor. Então, microfones custam um pouco de recurso no servidor e é impraticável a gente ter salas grandes, com 100, 200 usuários, com todo mundo usando microfone. Então, o modo ouvinte surgiu por causa disso. O problema disso é que ele causa bastante confusão em UX, é difícil de trocar entre modos de modo ouvinte e microfone, e a grande parte dos feedbacks do usuário que a gente recebe é que isso é confuso. O usuário tem. Então, a gente bolou um plano de ação como a gente poderia se livrar desse modo ouvinte e mantendo a viabilidade do sistema como um todo. A gente planejou fazer um passo intermediário, que é manter o nosso sistema de áudio e de microfone hoje, que é o Free Switch, no sistema, porque a gente tem outras features que dependem disso, como integração de telefonia, e essa próprio conceito que foi desenvolvido no Summit, ela busca só transformar o modo ouvinte no modo transparente, que não tem intervenção do usuário, veja que isso está acontecendo. E a premissa básica é que é raro que tenha muitos falantes ativos ao mesmo tempo. Então, não vai ter 10 pessoas falando ao mesmo tempo, e se tiver, isso não é útil. Então, 10 pessoas falando ao mesmo tempo não é uma conversa, é bagunça. Então, a ideia do próprio conceito é a seguinte: o usuário só tem uma opção de microfone para entrar na conferência, então, como qualquer outra plataforma de videoconferência, isso daí torna uma experiência um pouco mais familiar para quem usa outras plataformas. Do lado do servidor, o que a gente faz é que quando um microfone é determinado inativo, então o usuário se mutou por 2, 3 segundos ou não está falando, está sem atividade de áudio, mesmo que esteja desmutado, a gente vai desativar o canal dele de entrada de áudio do servidor e ativar um canal de ouvinte do lado do servidor sem intervenção nenhuma do usuário, sem que ele perceba. Então tudo isso vai ser transparente, o usuário não vai ter noção nenhuma do que está acontecendo. E caso o microfone volte a ter atividade, então o canal de áudio dele é ativado e tudo volta ao normal. Isso foi prototipado no Summit. Existe um webcam aberto já, versão 2.7 do BBB, experimental, próprio conceito, novamente. Aqui estão os resultados, principalmente do lado do servidor. Então foi testado no servidor de 2 cores, com 16 canais de áudio, então 16 pessoas usando o microfone e um falante ativo. Com esse novo modo experimental, foi tido um pico de 11% de uso de CPU, em comparação com o que acontece hoje, que foi 27% de uso de CPU. Então, é 40% de CPU do que a gente usa hoje nesse novo modo, no melhor cenário. Então, é uma redução bem grande, como vocês podem ver no gráfico. Da esquerda é o modo novo, da direita é o modo antigo, atual, no caso. Como eu falei, tem um PR para a versão 2.7 do BigBlueButton. Experimental tem bastante espaço para otimização aqui. Então, a gente tem que definir heurísticas para definir o que é um falante ativo, não só se basear em se um cara está mutado ou não. A gente tem que definir também como a gente vai limitar o número máximo de falantes ativos. De novo, 10 pessoas falando não é uma coisa que faz sentido. E a gente pode otimizar mais ainda as features do servidor de mídia que a gente usa para reduzir aquele CPU que foi mostrado antes aqui no gráfico à esquerda. Isso aqui pode ser reduzido mais ainda. Então pode ficar melhor do que já está. E o que falta fazer também é a gente tem que ter certeza absoluta que a gente não vai causar regressões na qualidade do áudio, da experiência. Então a gente não quer que esse processo de troca automática interna do servidor cause problemas. Então cause picotes, corte de áudio, etc. E depois que isso estiver tudo acertado e ter certeza absoluta que esse é o caminho, a gente vai revisar de novo a UI e a UX do cliente para que a experiência de entrar no áudio, se mudar, etc., seja mais simples possível. Além disso, teve um round bônus no Summit, na nossa parte, que é... A gente tem um sistema de gravação hoje que é meio legado, um outro software open source chamado por dentro. E a gente está substituindo isso por uma aplicação nova. A maior parte do trabalho foi feito pelo Arthur Projenko, que reescreveu boa parte do gravador em Go, usando Python. Aqui no Summit foi adicionada a instrumentação Prometheus para ter métricas, e os próximos passos é continuar melhorando a performance dessa nova aplicação e verificar que a qualidade e integridade dos arquivos gravados esteja correta. Isso.
Muito pontual, muito bom, Paulo, obrigado. Beleza, gente, agora a gente vai fazer uma coisa diferente, que é a seguinte. Quem vai fazer a próxima apresentação é o Kurt, que é um dev do BBB que está no Canadá. E a gente vai ter o Lucas fazendo a tradução simultânea aqui durante a sessão do Kurt. Welcome, Kurt. I just told everyone that you will be speaking in English, and Lucas will be translating your presentation. Lucas, if you can enable your camera as well, so it will be nice.
Perfect.
Thank you very much, Kurt.
No problem. So as Felipe said, my name's Kurt, and I'm with Blindside Networks, and I'm just about to show you the demo for the new Whiteboard Vision updates. It's essentially a new feature for the whiteboard that allows a one-to-one interaction with the instructor and students using the whiteboard without having to break them into basically breakout rooms. So if you can see the slide right now, where we've moved the multi-user whiteboard button to the TL Draw whiteboard. So once that becomes enabled, all of these students can see each other interacting with the whiteboard. But with the new Whiteboard Vision feature, once it gets enabled, the students automatically get locked so that they can no longer see other students' cursors or annotations. But the presenter can basically see what they're doing. So if you see student A, while he's drawing on his whiteboard, the Whiteboard Vision view for the presenter can see exactly what's going on with that student. And that goes for all students. What we've added to the Whiteboard Vision that was mainly from this summit was the ability for the instructor to view these whiteboards and basically go into live interaction with the students. So now the instructor is basically viewing student A's whiteboard, and whatever interactions that they have, they can basically make any annotations, and it's restricted to just the student that they're interacting with. So the teacher can come out of that.
Kurt.
And yep.
I'll transcribe what you're saying to Portuguese for the people joining us from Brazil. So
yep.
I'll just interrupt you for now and I'll repeat what you said in Portuguese, okay?
Yep.
Então, pessoal, o Kurt, ele está apresentando, ele trabalha para Blindside Networks e ele está apresentando uma funcionalidade nova que eles estão trabalhando, que eles chamam de visão do whiteboard, e ela permite que o professor ative um modo onde cada estudante vai ter o seu próprio quadro branco e eles vão desenhar individualmente, escrever coisas individualmente, só que elas vão ser coletadas e mostradas numa interface unificada para o professor e ele vai poder então ter uma visão geral de tudo que está acontecendo na sala. E o que eles desenvolveram nesse novo Summit também é a possibilidade de que o professor possa focar em uma delas e interagir com apenas uma dessas, parecido com o que a gente tem hoje com as salas de apoio. You can go ahead, Kurt.
Yep. So from this point, once the teachers finished interacting with whatever students they want, once they end the sort of whiteboard vision session, and they go back to the main room, all of the annotations are basically removed because they're restricted to the layer and sort of mode that they were in. So if at any point the instructor wants to go back to see individuals' annotations, they can just re-enable the whiteboard vision and all of the marks that they previously made will still be retained throughout the meeting. And the goal of this is essentially to basically have the one-to-one interaction with the users. But that's pretty much where the whiteboard vision is at the moment.
Ok, I'll transcribe now. Então, daí o Kurt descreveu que depois o professor ele pode sair desse modo e voltar a ver o quadro sem as anotações, mas ele pode a qualquer momento depois voltar e acessar a anotação separada de cada estudante para que ele possa fazer esse acompanhamento 1 a 1. E como vocês podem ver, ele está demonstrando ali fazer isso aí algumas vezes. E isso é até aí basicamente que foi desenvolvido essa funcionalidade durante o Summit. Ok. Thanks, Kurt. Obrigado, Kurt.
No problem.
Beleza. Thank you very much, Kurt. Obrigado a todos, pessoal. Então, nesse momento a gente encerra essa primeira essa primeira etapa do encerramento desse 17º encontro. E agora eu vou passar a palavra para o Fred Dixon, que é CEO na Blindside Networks e que também é Product Manager do BigBlueButton. E ele vai conduzir, então, essa segunda etapa, que vai ser inteiramente em inglês. Então, convido a todos para permanecer com a gente aí por mais essa nova etapa. Thank you very much, Fred. So I just introduced you in Portuguese. I said you are the CEO at Blindside Networks and the product manager at BigBlueButton, and you are going to conduct the next part of the presentations.
All right, thanks a lot, Felipe. Actually, I'm going to walk into your room. We'll pause one moment.
All right.
All right. Welcome, everybody. So my name is Fred Dixon. I'm the CEO of Blindside Networks, and I'm also the product manager for BigBlueButton. BigBlueButton, as you know, is an open source web conferencing system for online learning. We have been working on it for over 14 years now, and working very closely with mConf and IMDT, two of the companies that have been presenting. And you'll see the presentations. We just finished up the presentations in Portuguese. We'll be now doing all the presentations in English. It's my pleasure to share with you the work that we've done this week. We are very focused on two themes. One you'll see is on optimization, and the other one is increasing the amount of engagement that teachers can do with students. The mission of the BigBlueButton project is to build the world's most effective virtual classroom. And we define that as one that maximizes time for applied learning and feedback. If you've been following the project, you can see that we've been very focused on online learning. And as an open source project, we have been working with developers all around the world. And this is the 17th Developer Summit that we've had. So what will follow now is a bunch of presentations that will be in English. If you just watch it in Portuguese, you'll see it now in English. And we will be sharing with you the work that we've been doing. And we invite you on the live stream if you have questions to ask. And of course, this will be recorded, but a lot of people worked pretty hard this week. So looking forward to sharing. All right, and with that, Felipe, I'll let you run the, who would be up first?
All right, so GraphQL.
Quem tá falando, eu falo. Can you make me present again? No, isso. Jump around.
You are the presenter and we are live.
Okay, well, welcome everyone. I'm going to present the progress we got with the GraphQL implementation. This work started on the past summit in Berlin. At that moment, we was discussing how we can improve the scalability and simplify the code and things like that. And we considered that GraphQL could be an option for this. And we are now implementing, migrating some components to validate the results and things like that. Okay. So first I'm going to present the reasoning why GraphQL is being considered as a solution. So Meteor, that's the component that is providing data for the browser. Currently, it runs, it's not currently, it runs in Node.js, and Node.js is limited to one CPU core. So no matter how big is the server, it will not scale. We implemented some ways to attempt to scale it, like running multiple meters and things like that, but this duplicates too much work on the server. So it scales, but at a high hardware cost. So we want to search for alternatives. And GraphQL is a standard way of consuming data. So now Meteor is only providing data to the browser, but with GraphQL, we will be able to open the BigBlueButton data for different devices. So we can have IoT devices, we can have second and third screens like a tablet, a smartwatch, things like that, connected directly to BigBlueButton and getting information. And it's bandwidth efficient. So we can provide server-side aggregations like the count of the users. This is not possible with Meteor and Mongo. Server-side pagination, same thing. And we can get a subset of an object. So let's say a component wants only specific fields of an entity. It's up to the client to define which fields are going to be consumed. So the browser is not going to receive more information that is needed. And it's also reactive, but only for what is currently displayed. So I'm going to present it later, a demo, but basically, if you are on the top of the user list and the users are joining, you will get information up to the users that fit in the user list, and everything that happens outside the screen is not going to be transmitted. So it saves bandwidth. So Hasura is the server, the GraphQL server we choose for implementing GraphQL. For now, it's the solution that we're going to use, but it's a GraphQL server. We can always replace it by something different if we find that it's needed. It's a standard, so it's better than Meteor, because Meteor is one solution. We cannot replace Meteor because it's not using a standard way to communicate with the browsers, but GraphQL is a standard. So we're not willing to replace Hasura, but we can replace if it shows problems. And Hasura has a low learning curve, good documentation, scalability. It also provides the server-side filtering that's important for the security. And it also has an interesting feature, that's the query multiplexing. So if several browsers are looking to the same data, this data will, one query is going to be performed to database is sent to multiple browsers. So it uses resources in a wise way, let's say. So in the initial architecture, we considered that akka BBB apps could feed Postgres with data, and Hasura would consume data from Postgres. It works. It worked in the previous summit, but then we found some challenges. To multiplex the queries, they need to use the same filter. So if we want to limit what the user can see, it's much better to talk to Hasura that we want to get, like the query will return this result for a viewer and this result for a moderator instead of the specific user ID because of the multiplexing. So we wrote all the queries. Gustavo's not talking, but he did most of this work. So I'm just presenting him. But we specified the queries in a way to use the role of the user. But the role of the user is provided to Hasura when the browser connects. So browser connects to Hasura. Hasura asks BBB Web what is the current role of this user. BBB Web returns. But in BigBlueButton, you can modify the role of the user. And so Hasura, there is no way to update this session variable that's attached to the connection. So we had to add this extra components, that is the GraphQL middleware. It basically opens, browser connects to the middleware, middleware connects to Hasura. And middleware is listening to Redis message. So BBB apps can say, okay, this user is now, this user is now invalidated. So the GraphQL middleware will kill the connection with Hasura while preserving the browser connected, and it will reconnect. So when it reconnects, it will get the current role of the user. Information is going to be sent back to the browser, and everything works. So we could, and without adding any reconnection on the client side. So it works. We need to hurry up because I almost use it all the time, and we have several people to present. So I'm going to skip some slides here. So who's going to present the who's typing? Me. Okay. Go ahead, I will make you a presenter.
Okay. So one of the benefits of using GraphQL is removing a lot of complexity from the code needed to fetch data from the client. Because of the server-side filtering that Jack mentioned, the logic to check which parts of the information each user has access is moved to Hasura. So it's now much easier to do it. Here I will show the code for the type indicator before and the code that is needed with GraphQL. This is the code without GraphQL. And this is with GraphQL. So it was simpler to do it. And this is a GraphQL query that we use to that. Is it so now userless?
Okay. So can you make a presentation? Okay, so we have a video recorded here, and it shows on the bottom we can see the Meteor BigBlueButton, and here the GraphQL BigBlueButton, and we are joining several users. We can see that here on the top, once the user list is full, no extra data is being received by the client. But here, even that the users are not displayed in the user list, the data is, the client is getting flooded with all this information, and this information is persisted in memory. So here the BigBlueButton with GraphQL is just resting, just the number of users is updating, and here everything is getting re-rendered all the time. So it's much better in terms of performance and in terms of memory also. And the video continues, but this is what we want to show. As you can see, it's stopped here. Nothing is going, nothing is flowing in the WebSocket, but here it's flooded with information. We can do more extensive demos in near future because of the time. Okay. Chat list.
Okay, so basically I would like to call your attention to the chat list because it's normally a component that we don't see too much. It's on the top left corner of the user interface. So this is the query I use to fetch the data. You see that the query is updated every time the data is updated to. This is the result I get when the query gets to the front end. Here I put the mutation. So the mutation is going to change the data directly from the front end. So we don't have to pass through the apps component. Here is a benefit of the TypeScript that we are using in this GraphQL implementation. Some of the types I used to in the implementation of the chat list. That's pretty much it.
Chat, Tainan, can you present? Okay, guys. About the chat. That one's the chat. I think everyone knows it. The main change we're using GraphQL is in the query we use a pagination to make just load the data in the screen. So instead of we get every message in memory like in the Meteor run, now the client just fed a small chunk of data. We made a pattern for when the user stale the chat, when it's in the bottom just following the new message. In the tail we just get a fifth message, so everyone that is using the tail of the chat will keep with the same query, so we use the benefits of multiplex. Also, the user list has it, but I didn't mention it. And I think that's it for my part. One important part, please go back, and is that for each chat message, we get the name of the user, the message, everything included in the message that the server is sending. So basically, the chat component does not depend on other components, and this is really, really important and a big benefit of this implementation. Okay, go ahead.
I think that one was left over.
Okay, go ahead.
So, about the who is talking component. Those are the queries I used. As you can see, very simple stuff, and also very used to do with GraphQL. To fetch some very simple data from the users. So what is the who is talking component? The who is talking component is the one that shows how many people and who is talking, and exactly how does it do it. So it fetches some information from our database, and now we are fetching this data using GraphQL, and it catches all the important information to do that, and then it is passed to the front end, and we can see it in the client. Future work.
Okay, can you make me self-presented again?
Yes.
Okay, so as future work, well, we need to finish migrating the components, making sure no feature was left behind. Like we know some stuff was not migrated yet in the components we showed you. We need to create some kind of CPU and memory profiling of the middleware, just to be sure it will scale fine. And also configure some kind of HA, because the middleware does not
keep any state, so it can run like 2 or 3 instances. If it crashes, it just continue working. In BBB apps, we need to ensure that all events are correctly persisted, and also ensure that it's written in the correct order, so things don't get messed on high traffic. And well, this is a work in progress. It's kind of a watchOS application that's going to vibrate when someone raises hands when you are using the Apple Watch, things like that. Yeah. So I think we're not going to demo now because there are other presentations to come. But if time permits, after the other presentations, we are going to get back and show the demo of this thing working and answer questions. We, of course, underestimated the time we would need for this presentation because we already exploded the time. So thank you very much. And we had a testing presentation that maybe we can. Is this included on this time or no? Go ahead. You can. Okay, you can do it. So let's continue to the testing presentation.
Yeah. So talking about the test improvements we've been working on. Just to mention, it's not related to GraphQL and SQL part, but it is. We have some good numbers to show. We've been working to add the support for running the test in serial mode. The default is a parallel, which allows us to run more tests in the same time. But we found some things that I'm going to show. Some problems that we found in the last runs. Some of them are like, for example, the time of the execution. We've realized that some of them are taking longer than it should because we found that many steps that we are doing are repeated, and some of them are unrelated to the test in specific. So, for example, if we're testing the join audio, we have to press the button, we have to wait for some things, but in some occasions we want to test the share webcam, and we have to close some other things not related. So these kind of things make us to decide to try a new way to run the test to make it faster and easier to run. So this is like a pretty common way to run the test, and this is all the steps we got. So first thing is creating the meeting, and then the playwright opens the browser instance, and then we have the join moderator right after the join attendee, and then both of them actually have to wait for the read to load and then close out modes. This is like the same steps we have for all the tests. So finally, we have the steps to execute the test steps, which is something pretty much specific for the test. And then at the end, the test assertion, which we get like if the test passed or not. And then we have to close the browser instance. So if you see like all these steps in the red box are repeated, we have to do this every single time that we are running the test spec. So the only part that is specific for the test is those two steps. So there's a way to improve this, making this change. So before starting to run all the tests, we do these steps, the first red box previously, and then we run all the tests. So each green box, let's say, is a test execution. So we prepare the playwright to run the test, and then we do all the steps, and then at the end we finally close the browser instance. So we can reuse the page, and we can reuse the same connection, the same meeting to improve the time execution. So this is some numbers to show you. The first image is running in the parallel mode the current way. The test for the options button, and it took around 3 minutes and 12 seconds, and then we got this number changing this way, so it is around half of the time. This is another example for the layout management test. This we got a bit better number, around 36%. And this is another one for the chat, the chat test, which it takes like 14% of the usual time of execution. So it is great numbers, and it will not block us to run problem mode. This is mostly made to run some remote server or some environment that is like weak, and we have to run the test. It's taking hard to run all the tests and keep all the meetings in the server open. So this is a good way to run, specifically for CI, because we are improving them. We are adding many of tests. We have around 700 tests running for the Chromium, Firefox, and WebKit. So it is a really good number, and as we are adding this, we have to thinking of not lose the performance of this and on the server that it is taking. So now, taking advantage of this, I want to show you, actually Gabriel is going to show you a really good way to you guys see how is the test going and how to debug in the best way using the test executions to see some failures. So that's it.
So hello, right now I'm going to show you how to see the test results of a PR. So this is an example. This is the Daniel Petrie's PR. So you can scroll down a little bit and you can go to this part of all checks have passed. So then you click on the details on the automated test and you will go to this page. Then you click on the summary and you show you this part, the tests report, where you can click and it will download two folders, the playwright report and the test results. So to see the test results of this PR, you click on the index.html and it will open all these tests. So you can see everything it's going on the test of this PR. So now I will show you this simple test, join audio with listen only. And here you can see all the test steps. And then you scroll down a little bit and you can see the screenshot of the end of the test. And then you can see the videos of all the pages that were open when the test was running. So this is it, and it's a simple way to see if the PR is passing or not, and you can see all the bugs or if the PR is okay to be merged. And that's it.
Very good. Really nice.
So can Gustavo do a quick demo just to show it working?
Go ahead.
Okay, please make him presenter.
Okay, so what you guys worked for the whole week is a lot of components, but all of them was separated, each one developing their own computer. So what I did was merge everything on my break, and I was not expecting it would work at first, but surprisingly it worked. So I will show you how the BigBlueButton is performing now using the graphical components. So I will start a meeting here. And I will join with 2 clients. Okay. Let me refresh to show the graphical income. Okay, here it's connected to the GraphQL server, and you can see that it opened 10 subscriptions. So it will listening, waiting for data. And so one component that was migrated is the chat list. For example, if I came here and open a private chat, now this list is working with GraphQL. Then if I chat something here, hey, the other client also received the data of this new chat in the list. And if I go in the public chat and I write something, now the other client is seeing who is typing. It's using GraphQL as well. And if I join audio, hello. And if I talk something, now the data is coming here in the GraphQL as well. So the guys talk that now the code in the client is shorter because most of the logic is in the backend. For example, this is the subscription of the user voice. Now I'm talking, and it's showing here. If I stop, okay, now the talking here is false, but the data is here. And after 6 seconds, the data is gone. So the clients don't need to control if it should show this user or not, because the backend will not provide data if the user should not be there in the interface. So it's much easier now. And here, who is typing, if I say something, hello, the data is here in the subscription. And after some seconds, it will be, now it's gone because the user stops typing, and then GraphQL stopped providing this data. So it's really easy. The data is, all the logic is in the backend now. And now you can see that a lot of users joined the meeting. It's like 200 almost. And we can see here that it's receiving data. But if you take a look, it's just a number. So if some user joined, the only data they will receive is a new count here and no users. But if, for example, if I stop here and I scroll, then it will receive the data of all the users. So yeah, that's it. All the components working.
Can you hide the chat just to show that it stopped receiving data?
Okay. Yeah. Now if I show the chat, I create a subscription. If I these are this, for example, and if I hide it, it stops the subscription. So it will not receive data that is not in the screen.
Yeah. Just one final word. Some users think that hiding the chat from the layout will make the client thinner. Now it will be possible, so it's a good thing.
Very nice. Thank you very much, guys. So next one is Lucas, and then folks.
Hello, I'm Lucas from MConf, and our team has been working mostly on porting some features that we have on our own product based on BigBlueButton, and these are going to be going into BigBlueButton 2.7, so the next major version. And I'll talk a little about those features. So the first one of them is the timer, which we can actually see working right now on this live transmission. It will show up on the top right corner, and we can use, teachers can use this to set the time for tasks, or you can use it as a chronometer, and it will give you an audio feedback when it's reached the 0, and you can also use background music for it, so you can have some audio feedback that the timer is going. This is the first feature that's being ported into 2.7. The second one, I'll share my screen very quick. The second one is something we're calling user reactions. I'll just change my client real quick to English here. We call this user reactions, and it's kind of an extension of the user status that's currently in BigBlueButton. So we can raise our hand, and we can set our status as being away. But we can also add a reaction that is based on the emojis that we know from everywhere. And this emoji list is customizable, but the idea is that if I'm feeling happy on the class, I can click on this reaction, and then everyone will be able to see it on the user list. And that's mostly it. So it's a kind of an extension to the already existing system in BigBlueButton, and we can configure it a little on the by using different settings on the configuration file. The next feature that we're going to be porting is called Present Webcam, and the idea is that we can, or actually share camera as content. So the idea is that we can share this webcam into the presentation area, and while it may look, I have another user here. While it may look simple, what it's actually doing is it's going through the screen share infrastructure, so we can have a really high quality webcam here. And the idea would be if you have a presentation or a class that has an HD camera or even higher quality camera filming a real whiteboard, or maybe filming a presentation, it's a talk or something, you would share it, and then it goes into the presentation area. And since it's going through the screen share infrastructure, it would be registered automatically into the recording playback. So it's this allows us to cover a few different use cases for BigBlueButton, and I think it's pretty cool. And also, the last feature is something we've called generic content, and the idea is we can share different kinds of applications inside of the presentation area. So the applications are configurable. We have some examples here, but the example that I always show is Google Docs. So we can share a Google Docs presentation here, for example, and it will be actually synced to all users. So everyone could, it's similar to having everyone open a Google Doc in their own computer, but you're still inside the meeting, so you can have the audio, the video, the chat experience. You can have everything that you would have in a normal BigBlueButton session, but you're editing a Google document together. We have other examples of using this, but this is kind of a very simple way, very primitive actually way of integrating other platforms into BigBlueButton, but it allows us to do more complicated stuff if we want. And that's most of the features. So we've been working all week on this, and they're on different states of readiness, but we'll be sending pull requests and documentation about those features, and they should be ready whenever BigBlueButton 2.7 is ready. But that's it. If anyone has questions, because I did it in 5 minutes or so, so you can ask questions if you want. So that's it. I yield my time. Felipe is coming right back. I'm sorry that my presentation was over too quickly.
All right. Sorry about that. Let me introduce the next one. So next one is hybrid classes concepts with Bruno and Julia and Felix. Are you guys ready?
Passa o apresentador, Felipe, já passou. Tá.
Sure.
Just a minute. Trying to find my tabs. Okay. Hi everybody. This is a prototype that started in our last summit. Since then, we worked on user journey, user experience. So we're going to show you all the studies and research we made about the theme and some idea of prototype. Okay, so the objectives with this idea is to provide a truly hybrid interaction experience for the students who are in loco at the class and the students who are participating from desktop or mobiles. Also, we can use this functionality to storage data from the students who are in the physical classroom. So, in summarizing the idea, this is the idea of the mixed digital experience, which is a model where technology and pedagogy are one, which they have the same objective, which is giving to the professor teachers a better student performance, and also have a social approach, which is giving the accessibility to students who likes to enjoy the classes from an online version, or to students who like to join the class from a physical place. So it's all about where the learning is happening, which means it's happening everywhere, because people learn from books, from videos, from computer, from listen an oral presentation, or doing many things. And how we collect this experience, and how can we store it in a quantifiable way, a shareable way, and a trackable way. So since then, the last summit, we start to to design a user journey, which we have like 3 persons, which are the professor, the in-local student, and the online student. So we have like 3 journeys with the same objectives. I can share the PDF to see in a high resolution version of this journey, but is in this journey we have the actions which each of the persons needs to do, the opportunity, the touch points, and the backstage activities. We have a flow chart how it's going to work. So we have in one starts the in-local students, which get the smartphone to scan a QR code and join a hybrid class format feature where they can interact with the online students in the same way as the students who are using the BBB version on desktop. In the other way, we have the online students, which can access the room through a link, and they stay at the same page. And the great value and differential of this approach is we can collect the data from the students who are online and the students who are in the classroom. We design a representation, graphic representation of the idea. So how it's going to work. The students get the QR code in the entrance of the room, and they automatically get the presence in the class. The teacher conducts the class and asks to the students to answer the polls, to send questions, to raise their hand. So the students which are using the mobile version of this hybrid class feature can use the mobile to answer what the teacher asks. So all the data is stored and gives a teacher a report what happened in the class. And we have a little prototype to demo this. So here we're looking at the students doing the login, and then the teacher asks to share a QR code with the near friend. The student can send questions to teacher, and all the class can see what it's going on, what are the doubts. The student can take a look in a presentation which are in the whiteboard, so it's a way for the students getting in touch with the content of the subject. And the student can raise the hand, so everybody can see who is raising hand. The student can send messages in chat to interact with the other students. And also the student can answer the post. So all the interaction is stored in the learning dashboard. So finally, the benefits of this idea is to collect data from in-local and remote students, get a automatic registration of attendance, so the teacher doesn't need to check in a book or in an Excel table. Students engagement report for teachers in pedagogical sector, so the teacher can know how the students are performing in their classes. And that's the idea of the prototype. So if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. Thank you. Yes, Lucas, I have time left.
Yes, but that's fine. Let me check if there is any comment from our audience. No, not yet. So thank you very much, Bruno. We'll move to our next presentation, which is the listen-only refactor. So, Paulo, please join me.
You reset the time. Yeah. So, hey everybody, I'm Paulo, one of the developers in charge of maintaining BigBlueButton's real-time communications infrastructure. On this summit, we were covering an old issue we had in BigBlueButton, which is basically the existence of the listen-only mode. So, the origins of the listen-only mode aren't really an UX idea we had or something like that. It's just a mitigation to a technical limitation we've always had. So right now, microphones are resource intensive in the server because we use an MCU topology which actually mixes every microphone stream in a BigBlueButton server. So mixing is CPU bound and CPU expensive, and that doesn't scale well for meetings with a large number of users or servers with a large number of users. That's why the listen-only solution was introduced as a mitigation, because it uses an SFU topology, which just forwards WebRTC streams around, no transcoding required or anything else. So that's way cheaper. The problem with that is that the UX experience is actually truncated and unfamiliar for end users that choose to join as listen-only, for example. It's pretty hard to switch between modes. User feedbacks actually corroborate that. A lot of user feedbacks emphasize that that separation is confusing, which we all agree. So our plan of action to actually try and improve the situation is we've come up with an intermediate step which tries to keep FreeSwitch, which is the media server in charge of mixing stuff and dealing with microphone in the loop, because we depend on it for a few things like dial-in, telephone integrations. Maintaining it also guarantees a smoother transition in the short term. We'll still save bandwidth because only one stream will be sent around the phone and two users. And of course, a fully SFU-based audio solution can and will be explored on the road with different benefits like audio quality, etc. But that's for later in the future. We've worked on a proof of concept this summit, where microphones will have a built-in listen-only mode, which is transparent to the end user, so the end user actually won't know what's happening, and it's all backend. The underlying premise for that proof of concept is that it's rare and not useful to have many active talkers concurrently, so 10 people talking at the same time isn't really a use case scenario. 2 or 3 maybe, but usually you have a presenter or 2 people in a conversation and that's it. So if you have 200 people in a meeting, most of them will be inactive as far as voice activity is concerned. They will be just spectators. Based on that premise, we've laid out the proof of concept as is shown in the slide. So there are 2 triggers for this proof of concept. So first one is microphone inactivity, which for the sake of this prototype is basically the mute state. So when a user is muted, what we actually will do in the prototype is hold the channel in FreeSwitch, which means CPU usage is basically 0 in FreeSwitch for that channel. And I'm not talking about the mod conference hold, I'm talking about the channel-wide hold. That's why the CPU usage is zeroed out. And then when that happens, so microphone inactivity is detected, the channel is held. In the server side, we'll switch the user's inbound channel, so what he's listening to a server-side listen-only channel, handled by MediaSoup with a global audio bridge into FreeSwitch. For that to happen, we had to extend MediaSoup to actually be able to change the consumers, producers on the fly, because we want to avoid renegotiation when doing that, so the experience wouldn't be truncated and would be faster. So no renegotiation needed, all server-side. And the second trigger is microphone activity. So, for example, in this prototype is the unmute action. So the user unmutes himself. What happens is that his channel is lifted from the hold we put before in FreeSwitch. So his voice is reactivated in the conference, and we toggle the listen-only channel off in the server side. So folks will get back normally to the way they were before. My graph here pretty much explains that. There is an open issue in the open source repository, which details the solution a bit more, the proposed solution. And so we've done a prototype of what I just explained. There's a pull request open targeting BigBlueButton 2.7 with a few pending things, but the idea is that it will be behind a feature flag. So in that experimental fashion, what that PR does is that we can see here a small test we did just today, which is based on in the environment with 2 virtual cores running at 2.4 gigahertz. There are 16 audio channels, so 16 users using microphone, not listen only, because listen only isn't a thing anymore, and just 1 active talker. On the left here, on the left, we have the new experimental mode, and on the right, the default mode, so BigBlueButton's default FreeSwitch audio microphone. We can see that with the new proof of concept, we have the peak of 11% CPU usage, so under 1% per channel CPU usage. And on the right, on the default mode, we have 1.70% GPU usage per channel, a peak of 27% CPU usage, so way higher than the new experimental mode. So new mode uses roughly 40% of what we currently use of CPU on the server side. In the best case scenario, of course. So that basically scales with the number of active talkers, unless we do something about it. So that's basically the pull request is there. It's mostly working. Cursory tests demonstrate that there isn't any impact on switching channels regarding quality and integrity of the audio streams. But there's a lot of things we have to do for this to be considered production grade. So first one is we have to come up with a set of heuristics for defining active talker. So what is actually an active talker? Right now we use the mute state, but we can do a lot more with it. So voice activity, voice levels. We can also detect whether the voice activity is just noise or actually someone speaking. We can use user roles to define a priority of activity talkers, because afterwards we have to constrain the maximum number of active talkers we have on the server side, so we don't end up in a scenario where there are 100 people with their microphone open and they take down the server. And there's also better use of MediaSoup's pause and resume features, which the concept doesn't cover, and will allow us to reduce the CPU usage, like shown before here, even further. So that's a lot of room for improvement here. And then we also have to assess that there is no audio quality regressions, because there are some worries that this automatic switching on the server side will maybe cause audio cutoffs, jitter buffer accumulations, etc. mainly when holding channels. So we have to make sure we won't actually make the audio quality worse than it already is. And then after all is done and we've validated that, we need to review the client-side UI, remove every reference to the listen-only mode, so the end user can just have a normal experience like any other conferencing tool, which is just joining the conference, enabling microphone, muting and unmuting. No need to choose between modes or switch back and forth. So that's it for the listen-only part and phasing it out, etc. And there's a bonus round, which we've also worked a bit on earlier this summit, which is replacing Conjunto as the recording adapter. So Conjunto is still used as a recorder for video and screen sharing streams. That's a legacy requirement when we migrated from Conjunto to Medisu. So we've come up with a new application just tailored for recording, which is called bbb-mobile-sdk recorder. It's a Python-based replacement. Python is on this open source WebRTC toolkit, very good one. And Artur Prochenko did the heavy lifting here. He implemented most of the initial version of this recorder, so kudos to him. The current version of the recorder has been integrated into 2.7's build. It is behind a feature flag, so probably we'll have docs for that once the first 2.7 alpha is released. And this summit, we added a few things like Prometheus instrumentation, so we can access performance metrics. We introduced configuration overrides, a bunch of stress testing scripts, so there's automated stress testing scripts we introduced, which are not really dependent on BigBlueButton's infrastructure, so they are light to run. And the next steps will be continue with stress testing, come up with performance improvements. We need to come with a set of scripts so we can verify quality and integrity of the generated capture files, maybe when compared to Conjunto. So the idea here is to actually test both concurrently on test servers, demo servers, and compare the outputs and find regressions in the new recorder and make sure it's production grade. And then we have to support H264 afterwards, so as well. So there's a lot of work to do here as well, but it's looking good. And that's it on my end.
All right. Thank you very much, Paulo. Next presentation will be with Sheila and Miguel. So please join us.
Hello. I am uploading the slides right now. Oh, it's done. Miguel. Well, hi everybody. I am Sheila. I am Data Intelligence Team Leader here at MConf, and Miguel and I are here to talk about the XAPI project from this BBB Summit context. First of all, maybe you know TeamCan API or SCORM, which is very popular in a learning context. XAPI is an evolution of SCORM. It's almost the same thing, but really improved. In a few words, XAPI is a data specification to get and store information about learning experience. Currently, we collect interaction data from live meetings at the learning dashboard, for example, but this data is ephemeral and available by meetings, not by students or learners. Also, they come just from synchron meetings, not from recording views, for example. So these learning experiences, nominated statements, can come from LMS or other platforms, and they are all stored in a learning record store, the LRS. So we can aggregate data from BBB live meetings, side-by-side data from some Moodle activities, for example. We can organize it in distinct perspectives, create timelines, apply filters, etc. Basically, the XAPI architecture accepts three elements: the verb, the agent, and the object. The verb is the action taken by the learner. The agent is the learner or entity that performs a learning action. And the object is the learning item that the learner interacted with. So this week we have been working to send data from a BBB Live directly and in a real time to LRS using this pattern, the XAPI pattern. So Miguel.
Okay, so this is an overview of the current architecture we were using this week on this project. So we already had a prototype using N8N, which is a workflow automation tool. So we use this to receive messages from the BBB webhooks application and parse them and transform them into XAPI statements and register them into an LRS. In this case, we're using Rolf, an open source LRS solution. So we also configured Moodle to send XAPI statements to the LRS via a plugin called Logstore XAPI. So we're storing this week. We stored both BBB Live statements and LMS statements or Moodle statements in the LRS. So Rolf uses an elastic database architecture. So yeah, we have this data stored in Rolf, and Rolf, such as any other LRS tool, offers an API to both register and extract data from it. So our goal was to visualize this data in Looker Studio, business analytics tool. So we could extract data directly from Rolf without having to connect directly to the database, because Rolf offers, as I said, an API to extract data from it. So we had to basically develop a simple layer to extract data from the LRS to be able to visualize it on Looker. So on the next slides, we have a few examples of some kind of visualizations we could do with Data Studio, Looker Studio, it's called. So here are some of the most common verbs, as Sheila explained. Each XAPI statement has a verb attached to it. So these are the most common verbs utilized on our experiment. And this other graphic shows basically the number of statements made each day. So nothing really fancy. So okay, here we have some data related to video plays. So we thought this could, for example, if you have a way to play to visualize BBB recordings on your LMS, for example, and you are able to register user play activity in the LMS and send it via XAPI statements to the LRS. You could visualize the data, like how many users played, how many users interacted with the video, how many of them actually completed the video, and stuff like that. So yeah, I think that's basically it for this slide. Could you thank you. So we have a few statements we're capturing from BBB, and we're capturing statements such as when a meeting is started, when it's terminated, when users join and left, and some types of interactions such as shared screens, when hands are raised, polls, activity, public messages, etc. So we took some of those interactions and plotted here to show that. So one of the cool things about this is that this is real time, as Sheila said. So once the interaction is made on the live server, it's sent to the automation in 8010, and it's sent to the LRS, and the BI application makes an API call to the LRS, and the data can be updated in real time. So you don't need to have some fancy application to be able to extract data from it, and it's using a well-known and accepted pattern that is XAPI, that has many solutions, many LRS solutions. We're using ROF, but which is a very fine open source solution, but there are certainly many others. So yeah, we know there is talks and ideas, projects of making this this XAPI functionality native to BBB. In our exploration, we used like a prototype based on BBB webhooks. So just to explore the possibilities and the functionality itself, and it seems to have lots of opportunities for data analysis. Someone have any questions?
That's just the beginning.
Yeah.
All right. Very nice, guys. Thank you very much for the presentation. So for the next one, it is the prototype with bbb-mobile-sdk. So come and join us, Mateus and Shell, right on time.
Can you present?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm Mateus. And Lucas. Yeah, Lucas. Yeah. Last summit last year, Max presented the BigBlueButton Mobile SDK, and I'm going to show you guys the app that connects to that SDK. The original idea was to make the backend of the app using Greenlight, but we had some trouble with that. So we're going to show you a video of what the app was supposed to be, was using our backend. So this is from the initial page. We will open that. You can log in, have the mail, and
so we made the login with our backend. So this was the biggest problem with Greenlight that we had.
There is another authentication method from Greenlight, but the rest of the API is pretty much the same. Just a few new methods added. So that's why I'm not using Greenlight here.
Yes, and our API is a little bit different. So each user has only one room. So this would be the home screen with just his room. he can edit his password. Here in the drawer, it has his info, his email, his name. If we had another screen, we would be here. We also have language options, and any other button that we want to raise would be here. We have starting.
Create a session here and it's connecting to our own BigBlueButton server. So it will go for a while, but now I'm going to show you like a real app using our backend from Lucas' phone. This is an app made for a client. This is our site. I'm waiting for him to show.
I think you can see, but
he's going to create a meeting for his phone.
Yes, it is almost the same. It's just with more specific themes. But I created a room.
It's going to update here in a second now. Okay, sorry.
You can show it. It's basically the same.
And
I need to approve. So
this is the same SDK the next show, but with more things implemented.
Yes. So I'm gonna accept him. And
let's go. Yes, I believe it's. Yeah, join. We can join. My camera, this camera.
Yes.
And that's pretty much it. It's like a big demo. Originally, used to be that was using the green light as backends, but we had a good job with that. And we need to work on implementing that as a solution.
Yeah, the idea was to be able to create an app that can connect easily to any API, following some structure, basic structure. And we started, but we didn't have the time to implement this in real life.
All right, very good. And just to add that the bbb-mobile-sdk is a React Native library that can very easily embed any BigBlueButton integration through a mobile experience using React Native. So it's open source, anybody can use it, and you'll see more about it on the community in the upcoming months. Thank you very much, guys. Awesome. And right now, so next presentation is the final one, which is whiteboard vision. So welcome, Kurt. Please join us.
Hello.
Hello. Now you are the presenter.
Okay, let me just share my screen here. All right, so my name is Kurt, and I'm working for Blindside Networks, and today I'll be demoing the new Whiteboard Vision feature. It's essentially a continuation of the work that was done at the last summit for the Whiteboard Vision. And it's essentially a new whiteboard mode that provides a many-to-one sort of relationship where the presenter can see all of the users drawing shapes on the whiteboard without having to break them off into a breakout room. But then the users that are drawing, they only see basically their interactions. So it's kind of like a multi-user, but a little bit different. So we moved the button to enable multi-user back up into the TL Draw whiteboard toolbar. So if you see the top screen here, we can just enable multi-user. And like normal, everybody can see what everybody else is doing on the whiteboard. That includes annotations and the cursors. But with the new whiteboard vision mode, which the button is on the presentation bar itself. Once that's enabled, you basically get this new view where the presenter can see multiple whiteboards, each one representing each student that's drawing on their own version of the whiteboard. And once it's enabled, you can see that the students are now locked. So with the multi-user whiteboard and the whiteboard vision enabled, it basically locks the user's cursors and the annotations as well. Once that's a go, each student can then interact with their own layer on the whiteboard. And you can see that for the presenter view, they can basically see the updates that come through for what these students are doing. So let's just draw a few more things here. Now from this view, what was added this summit was the ability for the presenter to essentially see these drawings that the students are doing and be able to essentially focus or zoom into them and have a one-on-one sort of interaction with the student. So if we zoom in on student A, for instance, you can see that the annotations are just for student A, and the instructor can basically move around, add annotations, and that student can see basically that they're interacting with the presenter. So just for argument's sake here, we can just make some marks, say that's wrong, and that's correct. And the presenter can even remove the student's previous marks. And then once they're done, they can zoom back out and go check another student and give other marks, and then zoom back out. So from this point, once whiteboard vision is still enabled, the students still see the presenter's marks and their own. And then once the presenter is finished, they can turn off the whiteboard vision. And then it just goes back into multi-user whiteboard. But all of the annotations that were made while in the whiteboard vision mode, they're basically in that mode still. So once you come out of that mode, all the annotations disappear. But if at any point in time the presenter wants to retrieve those annotations, they just have to go back to the slide where the whiteboard vision exercise was taking place. And then once they re-enable it, all the marks are back on the whiteboard as expected for whatever student that they were interacting with. And that goes for pretty much anything. If at any point in time the presenter wants to basically make global annotations, they could also just come back out to regular whiteboard mode, make a generic annotation, and then that will persist for all of the users. So if the teacher needs to make an update to go out to all the users and not just each individual one, they still have the ability to do that as well. But outside of that, that's pretty much it for the whiteboard vision. The only other changes were previously we were allowed to basically make these boxes and resize them. But now that we have the vision mode to sort of zoom in and focus in on the presenter, we've sort of disabled that. And we're going to add in the ability. So if you have, let's say, 10 students, you obviously can't see all 10 on the screen at once, because then making them small might just defeat the purpose because you can't actually see it visually. So we've added a pagination feature, and we'll be able to basically paginate through if there's more whiteboards that don't fit on the screen. That's pretty much it for the whiteboard feature. If anybody has any questions, now would be the time. I still have 4 minutes, but that's pretty much it.
Very nice, Kurt.
Problem.
Very good. All right. So thank you very much, Kurt, for the presentation. Let's just minimize contents here. All right. No problem. All right. So I'd like to thank you all for following us for this 2-hour session. It was really nice, and it summarizes really well the work that we did
here in Porto Alegre this week with remote participants as well, such as Kurt and others who joined remotely. I'd like to thank the guys that participate here in Porto Alegre. So the mConf developers, Blindside Networks, and IMDT. It was very nice to host you guys here at the office this week, and I'm really amazed about the work that has happened here this week. So thank you very much. We will post on the mailing lists the links to each individual presentation next week. Thanks for joining, and Fred? Oh, wait.
All right, and I just want to add thanks to mConf for hosting the summit and their offices, providing this excellent facilities and a great work environment to come together. For those of you that are following, again, this is our 17th Developer Summit, and I think it's at least the 8th time that we've come down to Brazil to work with the mConf team and the IMD team as well, who did the excellent work on GraphQL. So it was an awesome visit. Wish you all could be here, and we again thank you for the host, Felipe. And with that, I think we can close the demos.
Thank you very much, and I will stop the streaming now. Bye-bye. See you later.